We are live, everybody. Welcome to another Horror Hangout, the first one of 2022, and a little bit different this time around. Instead of you all just sitting and watching me watch movies, I am joined today by Cindy and Derek of the Iron City Paranormal Gang, and they're going to share with us some ghost stories and some evidence and all the things that go bump in the night. How you doing, Derek? How you doing, Cindy?
Good morning.
Good.
Afternoon. Nice to see you.
It's nice to be back, John.
Oh, you're always welcome, sir. Yeah, I've been dying to get y'all back on. I enjoyed that so much.
I'm just glad things are working out this time around with Cindy, too.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate being included.
Yeah, me and Cindy have got a interview coming up. What was it? Saturday, I think.
Yep. I believe, yes. Yep. Looking forward to it.
So for those of you that haven't met Cindy yet, which you haven't, she is a medium, and mediums are kind of like exactly what the names is. They are the in-between, the world of the living and the world of the dead.
Yep. And sometimes they're cooperative and sometimes they're not.
Is it kind of like a crapshoot, kind of 50-50? Or is it?
Well, yeah. Well, I believe, anyway, my personal opinion is, whatever you are in the living is what you are when you pass on to your next journey, so if you were a social butterfly and love to talk to people and just bubbly, you're going to be that way in spirit too. But if you were mean, old and grumpy or shy or whatever, that's what you're going to be in your next, journey and phase. So some of them are more, receptive to being available to discuss or talk or give us information, and some of them are not. Some of them are very scared and shy, intimidated, and they just want to kind of sit in the back and observe. So it all just depends on where you are, what the situation is, and you kind of go from there. You have to make sure that they're comfortable, knowing that you're not going to harm them or be disrespectful, just like if they were living.
Yeah, I was going to say, so they have kind of the same stresses and anxieties that we have. I mean,
yes, they do. Yep, because this is, if you stop and think about it, this is unknown for them too. No one's ever gone to the other side, come back and said, hey, what to expect? Here's the 101. So they're learning as their journey takes a certain path also, my opinion.
So, Cindy, how did you ever come to meet Derek and Dan? I mean, how did you get involved with them?
Well, and I'm sure Derek will, kind of chime in on this too, but I actually had an experience at a location a little bit south of Pittsburgh, and doing research on that, I came across their research on the same location. So I reached out to them and said, hey, I had this experience. Did you come across, I read your research on this location, and see if you could, if they had any more information or could kind of connect the dots for me. And he said, well, we're going to be up at Hillview Manor this next weekend. Why don't you pop by and talk to us both? Because he and Dan were going to be at this paranormal conference convention up at Hillview Manor. I believe it's in Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I'm from basically the same area. I'm, from the Harmony, Cranberry, Zelienople area of Pittsburgh. So it was real easy for me to just pop up there. And that's how I actually got a chance to meet them and talk to them and kind of go over some things that I had experienced at that other location. So, and then from there, I just, asked that if they ever had, openings for someone to go with them on on an investigation, that I would appreciate if they would let me know. And he reached out, and I don't know how many we've done together, Derek. I think it's 5, maybe 6?
Probably 5 or 6. Yeah, I mean, it all started in Gettysburg, so it kind of started with a bang at that point.
We went to 2 locations in Gettysburg.
Yeah, it was back to back.
Back to back.
Back to when we first met, I believe some of the research that we did at what was it, Castle Blood, I believe. It was an old funeral home.
Yeah.
we didn't actually investigate there. We just
No,
did a
you
lot
just
of research.
yeah.
And a lot of the things that we came across in our research, actually, Cindy, just from the street, was picking up. Not going in the building, just kind of driving by. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. This is everything. She's telling us everything that our research has told us to this point. So that was kind of like, maybe there's more to this, come up, talk to us. Let's see what other kind of experiences, we've had. And then wasn't it, weren't we at was it Kaufman? There was some kind of hotel or something that we did unbeknownst to one another. That
Yeah,
we were both in the
both
same
there.
place at the same time, and we just didn't know it.
Just didn't realize it. I remember seeing them after the fact of meeting them in person and talking to them. And I think at that point, I kind of put 2 and 2 together about the Kaufman house. And they were like, yeah, that was us. So it was nice. That was nice too. Yep. And I think we did Martinsburg together.
Yeah, Martinsburg, Gill House.
Gill House, 2 in Gettysburg.
Cranberry Apartment.
Yes, and then Erie. Yeah. Yep. The Erie, what's it called? Station? It's a restaurant. It was an old train station.
The Brew Erie at Union Station, I believe.
There
is
you
the
go,
official
Union
title.
Station. Yeah.
And that is actually one of the ones. So I gave John a list of some of our kind of best stuff, best captured evidence, and a few of the things that we captured at actually Gill House is on there as well. I don't know if you remember, Cindy, that thermal image of that person popping their head out. That one's there. And Erie, that hallway, that upstairs hallway, where it was like it was your first freak out in front of us, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah, that was a little.
You had such a bad feeling that you refused to let us go down that hallway.
Yep. But if you remember, the stairwell, though, is where we had the best luck with the children. Remember? We had children.
There was a lot of flashlights going on and off, answering questions. But upstairs, too, we caught, in one of the thermal images, it looked like somebody, like, crossing their legs. And we tried to duplicate that. I think we spent, like, 10, 15 minutes trying to duplicate that. And it's like, wait a second. This is, like, there's something sitting here that looks just like this. And
Yep. And they were sitting at a round table, like a banquet table, with the chair facing us across the room like this, and they were sitting in the chair, just basically having a conversation with us. So it was nice. That was great.
So I shared that folder with you. I mean, you feel free to. So that's the Gill House.
Yep.
Oh, that's the Gill House. Yes.
This is the Gill House right here. So in this location, just to give you a little bit of a backstory. This family was very wealthy, very, very well known in the area. They had a lot of other wealthy friends, people that you would probably know, like was it Ford? I believe they were friends with. But they had a lot of mysterious young deaths in this house. But one that is relatively well known in the area, we actually considered this just the death room, because 3 people had died in the very room that we were in. One of which was the original owner's mother-in-law. They had basically turned this into a mother-in-law suite at the time. And in this particular this room in particular, there are actually written, documented deaths that occurred here. And as we were standing here, and John, I know we've talked about it before, and Cindy, I go towards things. I'm the ghost bait, let's say. So I kind of paused, more or less. I kind of like, whoa, I'm seeing something in this camera. I'm like really close to, just kind of freaking out. And I gently just showed Dan, I believe. I think Cindy was sitting across from the room at that moment that you had on the screen there. It's like, what am I looking at? So I held the camera, just this thermal imaging camera like this right in front of me, and we just sat there and watched, pretty much in silence. So what you can see is a doorway. The blue is the floor closer to the ground, but the yellow is up towards the ceiling. Heat rises naturally. And what you're seeing exactly right there in that doorway, if you just play that, you can just kind of play it on a loop. It looks to and I mean, you guys, you can feel free to stop me if you don't want me to say what I think. because I have opinions about pretty much all of this. But what I see here is what looks like somebody's curious,
Yep.
peeking in, looking in, and then pulling their head back out. And then they do it again. And then they do it again. I mean, it just kind of happened over and over again. And you can see the camera's not moving. You know, the doorway is stationary. So nothing in that clip is moving. And I believe the yellow that you see kind of on the bottom left of the screen is Cindy's foot actually moving. Like, she was sitting on the floor and you could actually see her foot kind of stretching out and then pulling back in. But that's the only thing that's really moving in the screen, aside from whatever was in that doorway.
Yep,
Whoever
right there.
was in that doorway. Yeah, so that would be Cindy's foot
Right there.
And weren't we talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but didn't we also have audio conversation because we were talking about pizza?
Yeah,
and they were responding to the fact that we were all starving and we were wanting pizza.
It was very late in the night. In
Yes.
this room, we were very disappointed because we got nothing. We had absolutely nothing to this point. And so when we have nothing, I mean, John, you know, from just talking to Dan and I, we just sit there and bullshit.
Yeah.
Half the time when we're just sitting there talking, that's when stuff happens. You know, like, hey, they want to join in. Yeah, but no, we were literally in the middle of a conversation about ordering some pizza.
Yeah.
Like, does anybody order pizza at 2 a.m.? You know, will anybody deliver to us at this old abandoned building? You know, and that's when it started happening.
I've been inebriated before and tried to order pizza at 2 a.m. But
yeah, I mean, and it works as long as you know you're at a place that actually has, you know, electricity and you know, an active address. I don't think anybody was living in the building at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's clearly not a residual. There's just no way, because it's got intent. It's just like a little kid. It's peeking around, going,
but it's tall.
Do they see me?
But it's tall. If you look at kind of the top of the doorway comparatively, and those doorways were tall, Cindy. If you remember, they were about 8 to 10 foot doorways. Like, they were the old school construction doorways, heavy as hell. So the head there, you're probably looking at anywhere between 7 and 8 feet.
Yep, that's what I was going to bring up, is look at the height of which we are interpreting it as a head that's peeking around, but then you can also see part of the body further down the edge of the doorway, that kind of like a knee or something that's tilted forward too. You can see a little bit of that. So that indicates, like he was saying, that it's a very large door, very heavy door. So it's not going anywhere. That door is not going anywhere. So I like the idea that you can actually tell the height of this entity. I don't think we ever got him to say a name, did we, Derek?
No, we never got a name, and we didn't.
I didn't think so.
So after we got this, some of the things that we did start hearing were either a young girl or an older woman, very soft-spoken. But every time they would speak, somebody would speak over them, as if stopping them, like a gruff, grumpy, you know, somebody that's almost watching over them, like, don't speak, don't say anything. And so every time that soft-spoken voice would begin to tell us anything, you would hear 2-3 words, and then this other voice, this dark, deep voice, would just kind of cut in. And even it could have just, I mean, you would never hear stop or don't, but you would just kind of hear this like garbled, there were no words. It was just like, it was a voice that was loud enough and dark, deep enough to stop them. And that was, those were the kind of things that were taking place in that room after this guy, I'm assuming it's a male, but after this started peering in at us.
Yep, absolutely.
See, I'm not good with the whole how tall the door was and all that, because I literally thought, okay, well, it looks like a child just kind of peeking around the corner.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that it's very difficult, unless you spend like $2,000-$3,000 on one of these pieces of equipment that shows you lengths and distances, unless you were there to see it. And that's half of it anyway, is experiencing it, knowing that it happened, seeing that it happened. But in order for some of this evidence to really truly be, finite, this door, not just me saying it, not just Cindy saying it, that it was 8 feet tall, 10 feet tall. You need this ridiculous, stupid amount of money invested in this equipment for what? To convince Joe Schmo off the street that, this door was that tall, this head, whatever it may be, was peeking and was that tall. So, it's to your point, you don't know. You're more or less taking our word for it. We don't have, unless you look back through some of our old pictures when we canvassed the building, you don't really see much more of that doorway or of the building itself.
Hang on one quick second.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I look like I'm being rude. Got people asking me for the link, and I'm thinking
not at all. I get that. Yeah.
So I'm just going through my friends list, like here, all of you.
Join us.
There you go. Right.
Most of my followers, listeners, and everything's from over here in Hawaii, so they're all church and stuff on a Sunday.
Yeah, right. What time? 8:30, 9 o'clock over there.
Yep.
So what? You roll out of bed and start talking to us, right?
Yeah, I just rolled in the floor and just got in the chair and okay, let's go. No, I almost went to sleep last night and forgot to set the alarm, and then I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh no. I was like, what is it? Siri, set my alarm for 7 o'clock.
At least your Siri listens to you. Mine doesn't like to listen to me.
I fired mine.
Yeah, I had an Alexa, but she likes to back talk. Especially when I go, Alexa, play who is it? Jimmy Buffett. I like Jimmy Buffett. And I'm like, play Jimmy Buffett. And it's almost like she's like, again, okay, let's go.
Do I have to?
How many times you gonna listen to Cheeseburger in Paradise, fat boy?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, Alexa, I'm hungry. Jimmy knows my pain.
There you go. Gotta do what you gotta do.
So this Gill house, this was your catch of catches, I would assume.
One of them, that's for sure.
Yes.
I mean, we've had some good stuff. We've had a lot of good experiences. As far as some of the stuff that we've done with Cindy, she's kind of guided us. She's been able to help us go to wherever needs to be, wherever there's like a hot spot. Or, I mean, because Dan's definitely closer to being a sensitive than I would be. I'm the behind the camera, the tech guy, whatever you want to consider it. But Cindy definitely has that insight, kind of pointing us in the right directions, where to go, where to look, where to leave a camera even. But definitely early on, that was one of our best catches for quite some time, I would say, especially using the FLIR camera. We've gotten much better at it and kind of knowing what to do. But that was definitely one of the first locations we even used a thermal camera at all. Yeah. But no,
it takes time to get used to it, though. It does. It takes time to get used to understanding what you're seeing and what you're not. What's an object? What is this? What is that? It takes time to get used to that.
Yeah, I mean,
also
you'll hear me sometimes say, like, move your arm, or duck down, just so I can kind of see what I'm looking at exactly, and so it can be documented. Hey, that's a person right there. But since then, we have had a decent amount of thermal images, but you almost need to be ready to take 1 million pictures at the drop of a hat. So if you go on an investigation with me, I have a camera here, I have a video camera here, and I got my cell phone with my thermal image here, and it's just like I'm ready to go. Whenever you hear something, whenever something happens, I'm clicking away, or but that's what you got to do if you want to catch something like that.
Well, and they also like to play games with you too and lead you on some chases every once in a while. You know,
that's the truth.
so
That's the truth.
you've got to be prepared.
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Exactly. You know, what else are they gonna do? So,
I mean,
yeah,
you're stuck in a perpetual eternity. I mean, you got to do something to have fun. I mean,
Well, and they're also it's their way of kind of testing you too, you know, and this is where when and if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of elaborate here a little bit, and if we need to move on, just let me know. But you know, when you come into a location, especially being a sensitive, and I know Dan and I are really good at being able to validate things for each other back and forth, and there's a lot of times we're very much in sync. But when you come into a new location, you have to understand and you have to have the respect, but that's their space, you know? So it's sort of like you sitting home in your living room and without a knock at the door, someone just walks in and says, "Hi, I'm not here to harm you, but I'd like to talk to you." You know, so so they're gonna test you, and they're gonna be like, "Well, who are you, and why are you in my house? You know, or why are you in my location? Why are you in my space?" And they're gonna try to test you per se, because would you take someone's word that just walks into your house? "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to harm you. I'm not here to disrespect you." They're going to make you earn that respect, and they're going to make you earn that comfortable. And like I said before, depending on what they were in the living is how they're going to react to you in death or in the next, the next journey of their life. So it's a matter of being able to put them at ease, make sure that they know that you're not there to harm them, disrespect them, and there's all different ways to do that. And that's a whole nother podcast in itself. But, so when you go into these locations, they might send you on a little wild goose chase, one, just to see, will you go? If I throw a ball, will you go and get it for me? If I throw you, some knocking or whatever, will you go and look and find it? Or are you just going to sit there? What are you going to do? So, and through that process, then they become a little bit more comfortable to be able to tell you a little bit more information or how to move forward on getting whatever you're looking for from that location. And sometimes, like we saw in the other clip, they're just curious. They don't want to actually interact with you, but they're curious with you because you're different than what they're used to now. They've transitioned into an energy state versus a physical state. So, and once you come to sort of like an epiphany of you are not a human having a spiritual experience, you are a spirit having a human experience. So once you kind of flip that mentality a little bit, then you're able to kind of understand their state and where they are in their journey. So, but you have to gain their trust. They have to want, or they have to know that you're not there to harm them or disrespect them or disrespect the space that they're in.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you've ran into those two that you're like, Derek, Dan, maybe we shouldn't go in there and mess with this particular, because I'm pretty sure there's some grumpy ones out there from time to time.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I got scratched by one in Martinsburg.
I'm actually looking for that picture right now. That's what
Were you looking for that?
Yeah.
We came across an entity, and he did warn us. He did. He was pretty gruff and rough, and, he did warn us a few times, but I was sitting in a chair. I wasn't like up walking around and, disturbing the space. I was just kind of sitting there quiet. We all were, actually. Just taking some random, pictures and the thermal imaging pictures. And I can't remember the name of that device you were using. Oh, I can't pronounce it. It's the one we can hear their voices talking in the background. Which one is that one, Derek?
You mean the spirit box or the plasma box?
The plasma box. I think that's what it was, because you could hear all the conversations. Yeah, he had it on a laptop on the floor.
Yeah, that would be okay. The plasma box then.
Yeah. So that one was an experience. I literally jumped straight up out of my chair. So, yeah, and I got a decent scratch on my lower back.
I can actually share this here real quick.
Sure.
because I did find it.
Yeah. And then afterwards, you know,
You
he
sending
was
it to
very,
my email, Derek?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, unless it's I'm saving it right now. But yeah, I can
and
send that to you. You know.
yeah. And afterwards, when we were photographing the scratch and stuff, I remember hearing him say, "Well, I warned her."
Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna send this to your Instagram right now. It'll be a lot quicker.
Okay.
So yeah,
'Cause it's
some
taking
of them
forever to get.
remain, some of them will remain very protective and grumpy. So you have to be very careful.
But yeah, I mean, we've had things just randomly thrown at us. There was an old,
Hmm.
there was
Yep.
I mean, during COVID, Dan and I went to one. It was an old infirmary, and in one of the areas that people were said to be mentally handicapped and really unstable. We went in there, we just put our equipment down. I mean, we barely got everything turned on, and all of a sudden something falls on Dan, and he's like, "Did you kick something at me? Like, did you throw something?" It was like a piece of drywall. There was
Oh,
no drywall in the room. It was like down to wooden studs. So we were just trying to find where this came from, and there was no explanation. But it
hmm.
freaked him out. I think we stayed in there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes more, and that was it. And then we left.
Oh, there's the scratch.
Yep.
So if you look right in this area, guys, or viewers, you will see right in here, you'll see this one little faint scratch right there.
Well, that little faint scratch burned for 3 days.
Jeez.
I
Yeah, and I
went back to
remember
the
when that, that
hotel.
that moment that it happened too. I mean, it was like freeze,
Hmm.
stop, everything. I don't know what's going on here, but we're done doing this, and you had to get in the light and find out what was going on because you thought it was something really really bad. I mean, not that it's not bad, but the way that you were explaining it, it seemed like it was more than a scratch. It was
Yeah,
like
it was hot. It was a hot scratch burn kind of feeling. And yes, I think that's when I decided that it was time for me to go. And I went back to the hotel and took a nice cold shower and put the cold water on it and the cold washcloth, and it
not that it
stung for
helped.
3 days. Nothing helped. No, it just had to run its course. It was 3 days. So, yeah, that
Yeah, I
was
remember clearly
definitely.
what you're talking about too. I mean, there was like a pretty much a clear cut warning before it
Hmm.
happened.
Yep. But anyway,
With these
so those are the,
scratches,
yeah. Huh?
I've always seen them in like groups of 3 and stuff sometimes. I mean, I guess it's not a set pattern with how you're going to get
Well,
scratched.
when they talk about threes, that's talking more
That,
like demonic, you
yeah,
would
Yeah.
say,
that's more demonic.
as
Yeah.
a I guess what you would
Hmm.
call like a hit to the Trinity, the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
what was there, I don't think
No.
was anything like that.
No.
I think it was just a get the hell out of my space kind of scenario.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
a warning, like I can do this to you if I really want to,
Yep.
but not that I wouldn't consider demonic. Anything you typically see
No.
in threes is what most would consider something demonic
So
or
Hmm.
that was
evil.
just something I was curious about with that because I've always heard that from. I watch James Long. He's a demonologist and
Mhm.
a exorcist for the Catholic Church, and he was always talking about how that stuff's like groups of 3 is normally demonic, and
When
normally
they
like in this case it's
when they're looking for evidence like that in order to get their church's approval, that's just one of those signs that they look for, or the
Hmm.
anything in threes. It's not even just scratches; it's anything in threes. I mean, you can hear knocking from
Yep.
what they claim, growling, hissing,
Patterns.
any
Yep.
kind of
Patterns
pattern
of
in
three.
threes is what those types
Hmm.
would be or said to look for.
Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely. No, I didn't get any feeling whatsoever of anything
Not like
demonic.
that.
No, nothing like that whatsoever. He was just very protective and grumpy and didn't want us in his space. That's all. Yeah.
Like the grumpy old
And
man
he
just
got
telling you to get off his lawn, basically.
exactly. Get off my porch, or get out of my driveway, or get off my lawn. You're ruining the posies or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, but that was definitely an experience for the books.
It was probably some old mechanic or something that was up above the roundhouse. I mean, the
Yep.
actual like where they would work and on
Yep.
on old trains and old train
Yep.
yards and everything. So that's why not at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Yeah.
Now, this picture right here caught my interest. It's clear you caught some legs, but nothing else.
Yeah, there was nothing else there. That's why we put that one up.
Where
but
was
that-
this one?
That was
Same
also
place.
Martinsburg. It's the same place. That was down, I believe, when we started hearing a cat or dog. At this point, I don't remember. It was one or the other. But that's when we took that picture. It was down in like the office, the general manager's office, and that was the same thing. So that would have been like on top of a desk. The yellow that you're seeing below that was a
That's
desk.
the desk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's just a person. It looks like they're sitting there. Here's their back, their arms just kind of resting on
Kind of
their
hunched
legs,
over, right?
Yep.
like he's on break.
Yep. Absolutely. And I got a lot from that blacksmith shop too, didn't I, Derek?
Yeah, you did. And
Didn't I
the
get-
interesting part of that location is it actually was a Civil War battlefield, little known to the public. And it changed hands, I want to say 23 times in the matter of 2 weeks, between Union and Confederacy. So there was actually an open field. If you're looking at that picture to the right of that, it was just an open field there. And that's really where the battle took place. So there's no plaque, no fanfare about it really. So if you stop on that picture right there, you look through that that large black post up above is what's actually connecting to the blacksmith shop. Through that doorway is the area that they would consider the battlefield really. And I remember we ventured over there and a cop had stopped and they were shining a flashlight on us because they're like, what the hell are you guys doing over here? And I don't think they believed us. And the owners were actually there. They were in the office that night and we're like, hey, if anything happens, if anything comes up, they're right there. We can go talk to them. But yeah,
Yep.
Like that far side, there's a blue building almost. That's as far as that stretches there. That's like barbed wire fence on the opposite side.
I'd have been like, I'm looking for ghosts, Mr. Officer, so leave me
I think we kind of said something along those lines.
You're scaring them off. It's like fishing.
That's right. Leave us alone. Leave them alone. We're gonna go away.
Yep. We're working here. We're working. Yep. But that was a really awesome location also.
Yeah, that was
This
unique.
right here is just blows me away just how clear this is.
Yep.
This right here is almost like he's got his foot up under him or something. I don't know.
So if you wanna see a good one, go to that folder that I shared with you and go to under the FLIR images, the Erie Brewery, or Brew Erie, I suppose it's called. That's the one that I was referring to before, where you can actually see what looks like something crossing their legs. I mean, it's
in the chair. Yeah.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Because we had didn't we have tried to have a conversation?
Yeah, we did.
We
And
did.
I
I remember that.
What was the name of the file? Or the you say Erie?
Erie Brewery.
Erie
Is
Brewery.
it
Station.
Erie Brewery 1? Where
So
it looks
in
like a
that
person
folder,
sitting on a bench next to you?
thermal. Let me see. Yep, that would be it. So if you pull that one up, you can. It looks like, and we weren't in that picture, by the way. Nobody was there.
This one right here?
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
Yep.
Just
See the
two
legs
friends.
crossed? Mm-hmm. And those are the banquet chairs on each side that you can see the legs for too. In the back of the chairs.
And that's the moment that we were trying to actually duplicate everything. I mean, we had
Yep.
Dan. I think Dan sat over there. I sat over there. Cindy sat over there. We were just we were playing We were just,
Trying
switching
to
chairs.
debunk it.
We were just trying to figure out what the hell we were seeing. And every time we would show up yellow or red.
Yep.
Nothing blue. And then when we would move away from that spot, we actually have pictures of nothing being there.
Yeah,
And
that's
this-
clearly a person because that's a leg,
Right.
another leg crossed
And
over.
this-
And
That's-
This
You can
area
see
was
their
used as a
arm.
party room. Like they
Yes.
would have dances and things
private
there.
parties.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If I had to take a guess, this is a female,
Mhm.
and this is obviously a male, just from the body posture and everything. It's almost like he's over there, trying
It
to
almost
score-
looks so
score
it
a
looks
date
like he's
or-
got his arm out,
yeah,
kind of
like he's like,
extended
hey,
out.
what you doing Saturday? Just kind of.
And then he's got like a high leg crossover, like
Mhm.
his knee on his knee, and then the woman there almost looks like she's in a like a very feminine leg cross
Relaxed.
posture. Yeah,
Yeah.
and just like if you had to picture it, a scenario, her just like rolling her eyes at him, like no thank you.
Mhm.
And you can clearly tell this leg is in front of this
That's right.
leg.
That's
because
exactly what
Yep.
we saw.
Honestly,
Yep.
colder here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to get a date, like he's in there macking or something. Like, hey, baby, what you doing later?
He's playing Joey and saying, "How you doing?"
Forget about it.
Forget about it. Yep. But it was
And-
after that room that we went down the hallway.
Yes. So if you go
And
back, if you go into pictures, it's called Brew Erie 2. If you go out of the thermal pictures.
Okay.
because when we walked down that hall, and Derek, please, fill in if my memory isn't completely accurate, but we walked down that hallway, and it wasn't a very long hallway. It was just a connecting hallway from one room to another.
Mhm.
And I kind of like freaked out and rushed everybody out of the hallway. And
That's
when you
exactly
turned
right.
around to take a picture, that was in the corner. And
Well,
that's
so
what I was.
This is This is one of the ones where I don't have it rated as high as some of the other things, mainly because you can't really see it. What you can clearly see, in my opinion, is an arm, a shoulder, and a leg, almost in
Yeah.
that doorway. If there's a figure there, that's kind of hard to tell. But so what had happened is Dan and I heard, it sounded like a whisper. And we started making our way down that hallway towards that red lighted area. And that's just like an emergency light, like a nighttime kind of thing. Because this is an operating restaurant bar. So they had to keep their emergency security lights on. But so Dan and I started making our way towards that area. And I think Cindy grabbed Dan's arm and he stopped pretty much where you see the equipment sitting on the floor, kind of in the foreground there. Yeah, and I kept going. I probably made it to about where that table is, like the end of that table down the hall that's leaning against the wall. And that's when you started like really freaking out, like get the hell back here, and you weren't, you're not like that. You're never like that. And especially at that point, I think we had only done 2 investigations, so you wouldn't have really been talking to anybody like that then. So I had made it there, and you had freaked Dan out so bad that he's like, dude, stop what you're doing and get back here. So we kind of ventured back to this area, and I just started snapping a bunch of pictures. And this is the one that you can tell there. Like I said, there's not a lot of detail in it. Like some of the other ones, you can see detail in some of these. But that one, we knew you could almost like feel it change in the atmosphere. In that hallway there. But what is said is this is on the second floor. There is a hallway. There's a doorway to the left of this hall. In this hallway to the left is
So you
that
go out
party
here
room.
and down.
Yeah, so that's the party room that we had the thermal image in. In this second floor, it said that there's something even that just kind of walks back and forth as if they were pacing, kind of just keeping people out of the area. And I know employees there had even been afraid and even refused at times to even go up there alone. Like they would use the buddy system if they had to go up there.
he monitors everything. He's the overseer, so to speak, of
So
that
he
area.
posted up in that doorway, kind of like, just
Yep.
stay away.
Yeah, and it's really unknown. No one ever really got anything as far as an identity to him.
No.
But it was an old train station, so who's to say architect, management, somebody that was just kind of left there. Who knows? But there was really never anything known about that. But that was kind of one of those moments where everyone freaked out, and it's like, all right, we're gonna take a break now.
Well, yeah, because the stairwell was right down at the other end of that hallway, and that's why we were walking through that hallway to get to that stairwell. So we kind of just hung out in the stairwell for a few minutes to let me kind of get my senses to kind of stabilize a little bit before we moved on to another section. And it gave us time as a team to be able to discuss what it is that, I was feeling, they were feeling, what they were thinking, that kind of thing. It kind of gave us a few minutes to decompress. So which was nice.
So from there, John, I just sent you something on your Instagram again.
Okay.
That hole directly to the left. A young girl had tripped and fell down the steps. She died pretty much immediately. And they actually, the bar has a beer named after her, kind of in remembrance of her. And that's the exact hallway. And it's really off limits to anyone except for employees, even then minimally, out of pretty much respect for the young girl. And so after we kind of got a chance to breathe, we wanted to kind of get light and airier, if for a lack of better terms. And so we sat there in the hallway. That's Cindy's foot that you can see on the left of that screen. And
that's my boot.
We tried to just talk to whoever might be there at that point. And you can see we were asking questions, and the flashlight just on its own was turning on and off. So that was one of the more intriguing moments that night, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now what's right here?
Yeah, it went off.
And just keep watching till it turns right back on.
And I'm trying to remember the scope of the questions, and Derek, you can help fill in too, please. But I remember just asking questions of like, are you okay? Are you there? Are there others with you?
Yeah, and you did get we got some answers where there was somebody else there. I believe the age was 8, and she was okay playing or having fun. I don't remember the terminology exactly that you had used.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely kind of almost a feel-good moment, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like, if this, if we're not getting messed with and played with, and these are some answers, it's like, okay, well, it's nice that this young girl can still be a young girl. She can still play and have fun, and the employees there do treat her in the area with a lot of respect, rightfully so. Because God knows, you never know. You could believe, you could not believe, but what if? There's always that.
Yep.
Do you really want to chance it? Do you really want to know? Do you want someone to treat you like shit after the fact? For lack of better terms. So it's. But they all do. I know that, and I think after that night, especially talking to some of the employees there, you could tell that they really respected the entire area as a whole.
Yeah. And I think also too, there was at one point a very large homeless population that lived in there before it was remodeled.
I do believe as they were transitioning, they had opened it for that. I mean, they kind of said, we're not using this space for anything else. We might as well at least put it to some good use. So they literally just opened the doors. Come what may, I guess. And nothing good came of it, from what I recall. A lot of fights and brawls, and you think about it. One person has food, you have 50 homeless people there. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
But
or any kind of comforts for that matter.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep. But there was, I know that I personally felt a decent population of children too that were there.
Well, and I
mean
think
like
that's
young, like 4 or 5-year-olds, but I mean like that 7, 8, 10 age bracket.
And I think to your point there on that stairwell, when those were some of the questions that you were asking and directions that we were being pointed in. Is that that there were other people that age there.
Mm-hmm.
See, what gets me right here is how when that light powers on, it's not a click.
Nope.
It's like they're using their own energy to make it come on.
Yep.
So when we use those lights, we basically unscrew them to the point that they are not on. And you set it down, and if there's something there, supposedly they could take whatever energy they may have, and they can almost, I don't want to say connect the dots, but they can pull the energy together to turn it on for a yes or a no. And, it's so closely connected that all you have to do is touch it for it to turn on. And you can see clearly in that clip, no one's there touching it, playing with it, tapping their foot. There's nothing making that turn on, physically speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And also, too, when you start experiencing your equipment draining, batteries going dead, equipment refusing to work all of a sudden, that's a sure sign that whatever entities or spirits that are there, they're using that to increase their energy so that they are able to respond or, at a bare minimum, keep up with us, to be able to follow us and do different, whether it's tapping or, the visuals or the physicals, or even turning things on and off, or making noises, throwing things. They're absorbing all those energies to be able to do that and to be able to manifest that type of activity.
Yeah, that just amazes me, right?
Yeah, and I sent you another one. I mean, this is actually the second round of questions.
Yeah.
I sent you another one where we kind of started and we were like, whoa, something's happening. We're getting something here. So this is the one that we're watching now. If you look at the caption, it says she's still going.
Yep.
This is the second go around.
Yep. And children by nature have a very bubbly and, charismatic type of personality, full of energy, full of life. So for them, it's easy for them to manifest that kind of energy. Easier, let's put it that way. Easier.
Yeah, she was really pumping some energy into that flashlight right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just notice too, because that's my boot. I'm sitting on the stairs. So if I had moved whatsoever, that would have vibrated that flashlight and probably would have knocked it over if I had moved at all, just because I was so close, and the vibration in the stairs would have knocked it over. So we know that it wasn't me producing any kind of vibration to be able to change the flashlight from on to off.
Yeah, I don't see how you could
manipulate.
Could dispute this at all, because there is
nothing
conceivable way that you could make a flashlight act like this.
Yep. And at that time of the night, everybody was gone. We were the only 3 people in the building.
Yeah, they actually basically locked us in, so we were the only ones there.
I mean, what would you do? You would have to drill a hole into the steps and run a wire into it,
or bubble gum the bottom, or
and then hook it to a dimmer switch. That's a lot of work to try to create an effect.
Yep.
That
absolutely.
Just the way
and
it's
they did a great job.
just lets you know there's just something
It's not consistent. You know, it's
No.
not like on and
Yep.
off.
Yep. And there was a time too that I was asking the same question again later in the session to see if the answer would change.
Hey, Michelle,
Do you see?
glad to see you make it. My friend Michelle Apla, probably gonna mess your name up. Apollonia. There you go. I am very bad.
Hi,
with
Michelle.
last names.
You should have just left it at Michelle.
She has a podcast called Sisters of the Strange. I've been a guest on it. Very good show. She's actually
Awesome.
Michelle, if you would go to Derek's Iron City Paranormal and send him a link to that show. She actually got some EVPs around some dolls. See, she makes horror dolls or horror inspired dolls, and I guess they found some EVPs around them or something. She lives up in New York, so if you ever want to pay them a visit there, Derek, you go up there.
Where in New York are you from, Michelle?
She's up around Syracuse.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm originally from the Saratoga Springs, Lake George area. I was just up there last week with my dad. So that's why I was wondering. You don't hear people say upstate very often.
Yeah, those EVPs were clear too. I mean,
Good.
What would you call them? Class A's, I think. They were pretty dang clear. I mean, you can the story is, I guess there's a person what it was the person she was interviewing, I guess is followed around by this spirit that and it's not a harmful spirit. It just looks over or out for her. And I guess the spirit is kind of like in love with her, so to speak. And he calls her certain names, and there's a reference to Edgar Allan Poe and all this stuff.
Oh,
so it's
wow.
very interesting.
She's never had any negative experiences with that kind of an attachment?
I don't think so. Not from what I gathered from the that podcast episode. I mean, I'll be more than happy to send y'all a link to it, let y'all listen.
Sure. Because that's interesting. Yeah.
It's almost like they've kind of formed a bond, I guess. And he's not been negative towards her or anything.
That's fantastic, because usually when you have those types of attachments, they can cause and have some effects on other things around you or within you. So I'm glad that if this gentleman has a healthy style of attachment that won't interfere with her free will or her life, then that's wonderful. That's good. That's a good thing, as long as he stays that way. It's sort of like having a little guardian angel at that point, as long as it stays positive.
Well, we lost Michelle. Maybe she'll get back in a minute. Nope, somebody popped back up. Maybe it's her. That you, Michelle? Well, anyway, but yeah, I mean that was. I mean, I think it said Michelle's name, best I could gather, and different things. And
interesting.
It was very, very clear. Let's see.
That's good.
So some of the other stuff that we had done with Cindy were there was an apartment in Cranberry. If you go into the recordings, actually, I don't know how well that'll play back on here as far as opposed to video or pictures. But if you go to recordings, see which one it is. It might be that top left, the kitchen.
Let's see if I can figure out how to get the audio.
But that one, and Cindy, you could attest to the name. Dan and I were in the kitchen, and actually Cindy was in the back room, and we were just playing the recordings, and one caught one thing, and the other recorder caught another. And this one, you can hear a name in it.
And we just can't hear.
You could hear Dan's voice in that one.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to crank that one up a little bit. I don't know how it sounds for you.
Hold on, let's see what I can do here. Oh wait, wrong button. If you're talking and we just can't hear you, can you tell us your name? Very faint.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking and we just can't hear you, can you tell us your name?
It was right at about 7 seconds, and you might have to, really crank it. And I don't want to blow anybody's eardrums out there, but it is very, very faint. The first recorder picked up absolutely nothing. You could hear Dan's voice and absolutely nothing, not even that little squeak there. But in this one, if you turn it up, what we usually do is I listen to it through headphones, kind of separately. And, my mom's an audiologist. She would probably hate me saying that, but I would crank it up pretty much all the way and listen to it. And then I go back and I clean it up. But this one, what we heard was the name Naomi. And this was really before we did a whole hell of a lot of research or looking into it. And I don't really want to disclose whose place it was, where it was, anything like that. But the couple that was living there, they were doing some serious deep diving.
Can you tell us your name? Trying to get this thing to allow me to. Oh, shoot.
I can always try to clean it up and send it your way anyway. I believe that was. I don't like to tweak things too much because the more you edit it, the more question marks you have with it, But so they were doing some real digging into ancestry, and without really knowing who this was, this ancestor may have been, or a name that was associated with it. Up front, we heard the name Naomi. Not a common name by any means, right? And then they looked into it, and I believe it was second aunt, something along those lines, that had she had died from an illegal back alley abortion. So that name was not known to us at that point. But this recording, like I said, you might just have to listen to it kind of off air so you're not blowing everybody's ears out.
Is this
which is a one straight is EVP? This one is
Gettysburg, Copse of Trees.
It was Kitchen EVP.
Let's see here. You sent it to my email?
I shared it. Yeah. Which email you want me to send it to?
You can send it to
the biz or the regular one?
You can send it to the secondary, that btfiends@gmail.com. Fiends already got that one pulled up.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm like you, Cindy. I'm still kind of figuring all this stuff out.
I'm definitely not good with technology.
This is really how we share everything, especially when we had about 8 people in our group, where I would just kind of dump everything up there and everyone would kind of listen to it. And when I say everyone, the idea and intent was everyone. Meanwhile, it was just me. But we share everything for the most part on here.
If you're talking and we just can't hear you, can you tell us your name? Yep, very faint.
It's extremely faint.
If you're talking and we just can't hear you, can you tell us your name?
Like I said, it's right around 7 seconds.
Yeah, right around, you said 7? Right around there. If I go back to 5, listen right here. Yep. It's a very faint voice.
But there was absolutely no other technology running or anything at that point.
Yep.
If you're talking and we just can't hear you, can you tell us your name?
Yep, right in there. I can't
But I
quite
think
make it out because
we
I
were
don't.
we were sitting there listening back to it, and I don't remember who actually heard it, but we sat there with the recorders playing it back for quite a few minutes. Like, there's something here. There's something here. You know. But yeah, I think Cindy was still taking her tour because this is the second time we were there.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. Was that the first time or the second time? Because I wasn't there for the first one. I was only there for the second one.
Correct. This was the second time that we were there.
And I'd like to also kind of preface that when I was working on these different locations with them, I requested that they tell me nothing. You know, general, sure. You know, it's a private residence. You know, whatever, that's fine. Or, you know, yeah, we're going to Martinsburg or whatever. But I don't do any research of my own ahead of time. And then when they get to a location, when they go to set up their stuff, they're with the owner or the curator of whatever location, and they get a little bit of background. Meanwhile, I'm off doing what I call my spirit walk, where I'm trying to just get an idea of the energy so that I can get used to it before I actually dive into anything. So there's a lot of times that I'm not privy to certain information, and then there are times that I'm not privy. So I am, but then I'm not. So it's kind of nice when they go in and they do their thing first, and then I come in after that. So it's nice to know that they were catching something out there while I was on the other end of the apartment, you know, that kind of home. So that helps out a lot too, that I'm kind of secluded off from that pre-knowledge of going in on things. I knew a few things, but not a lot.
So that way somebody can't say, well, she already knew everything.
Influenced, yeah. Of course, they have to tell me a little bit because of the fact of traveling and the nature. So I know, because it may not have electricity or running water, it may not have heat. I need to know certain things to be able to accommodate. And they may tell me where we're going, but I don't do any research ahead of time. I usually just ask them, this is what I'm picking up. Can you validate any of that? And they're very honest. They'll say, yeah, we got that, or no, we didn't hear about that, but let's, you know, keep it in the back of your head and see if it makes sense later in evidence review.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where we almost have to connect the dots like that.
Yeah, afterwards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's nice that Naomi name came up, because that ended up being a very prominent key in that investigation for that homeowner. So that was nice. That was a nice pickup.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's always nice when the person that's having you do the investigation has a emotional attachment to the spirit that's there. I mean, that's got to be a comforting thing. I mean, that's like me here. If I had all kinds of weird stuff going on and then come to find out it was my grandparents, I wouldn't be so upset about it, you know, because
but at the same time, you want to know that, you know, you want to know that link.
Yep. Well, especially if you're living within those, that location. If you're living in that location, you want to make sure that it's a safe, you know, environment for you to live in and continue to have, whether children or animals or whatever the situation is. It's very nice to be able to have that validated, so you know how to make the best informed decisions for your situation. Yep. Was there anything else? I'm trying to think, Derek. I'm trying to think. Wasn't there? There was another EVP from the living room. Remember, I was sitting on the floor and the homeowners were on the couch, and we were doing EVP in there too. There was something that came up in there, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly what it was.
I don't remember exactly either.
So they at their table, they had pulled out this big book. It was like an ancestry book, kind of like a family tree. And actually, at that point we were using a flashlight, I believe, and we were trying to figure out who was who. You know, light it up if you're this person, light it up if you're this person. And I believe at that point is when you started speaking with somebody that was like off out of the book, like far enough removed from the family tree. So that's when we kind of got away from that book.
Yep.
I don't recall the name at this point, but I believe that they were able to connect the dots after the fact. Of like, you know, this is second or third grandma or whatever, somebody that didn't show up there.
Yep. But I remember it being important later on, yes. And I believe too that investigation is the one that at the I was experiencing a lot of dizziness and
you ended up having to leave at the end.
Yeah, I had to end up leaving.
Stop right in the middle of what you were doing.
Yeah, because it was I was
you
afraid
got,
I was
you
going
got
to be able
very
to drive
overwhelmed,
home.
I believe, at that point.
Yeah.
So
sometimes it does that.
What causes that in
me?
In general? I mean, is it the spirit taking your energy, or is it a negative influence that's coming?
It depends on the situation and the location and what we're investigating and what's actually going on during the investigation. This one, I think, was just because there was so much energy. It was a smaller venue. It was a personal home. It wasn't like a big, huge factory or train station or whatever.
Yeah,
there was,
so I mean, most of the
energy
time,
was
like,
very compact.
So like that scratch in Martinsburg, she was easily able to walk down the steps, walk outside, go to a different part of the building, go to a rest area, whatever. We usually have like a spot where we put our equipment, where we'll put drinks and food. You know, we'll consider that kind of our break room.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's kind of easy to step away. You know, take a break, kind of get out, especially for her to kind of get her head right and step out of that. Exactly. Yeah. An area like this where you have it's a 3-4 room little apartment, you're going outside, you're leaving, you know, so at that point it's just an overwhelming sensation, I think, and I can't exactly speak from experience with that, but knowing those kind of areas and knowing what had gone on and seeing that, I think it was more of an overwhelming feeling.
It's an overwhelming energy
right there.
Yeah, and it's a very condensed area. So if you think about it, it's sort of like energy is basically, very palpable. Anybody knows, like the old saying where you walk in a room and the tension is so thick you can cut it with a knife. That's your body. That's your body responding to energy in the room. Whether it's coming off one person or a group or something else, you're feeling that tension in the air, literally.
It's the same thing whenever you get goosebumps, your hair stands up for absolutely no reason. I mean, that's your physical sensation of that reacting in the body.
Yeah, and
because we naturally generate electricity, obviously.
We do.
So I guess we put off our own kind of EMF field, so to speak.
Your own vibe.
Yep.
Yeah. You put off your own type and signature energy. And then and some people are more sensitive to it than others. And sometimes it's just a matter of there's no way to control it. It's just a matter you have to step away or you adjust. And with me personally, I try to adjust to the energy that's in the room and try to interpret the energy that's in the room versus stepping away. Because once you step away, it's sort of like hanging up the telephone. You know, you hang up that telephone. When you come back into the room, you got to start the conversation all over again. So that's why I try to adjust. Most times I'm able to, even if it is just taking, closing my eyes, facing a wall or something and just taking a couple deep breaths, but I'm still in the space. And then sometimes I have to literally walk out because it's just from head to toe tingling. And then it can make you very uneasy on your feet. It can make you dizzy and lightheaded. But yeah, it's just an overwhelming kind of feeling that sometimes you just have to literally disconnect that connection so that you can reset your watch, so to speak, and go back in and try to finish what you were there to accomplish. but it's different for everybody. You know, some people get headaches. I get those too. But I mean, for me in those specific locations, it was just very condensed and overwhelmed, and I had to step out.
It's kind of like at times at certain periods, like I've been in old houses and stuff like that, and you get that what I call having your spider sense kind of go off, and you almost feel like, is somebody watching me? Is something going on? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't.
I feel like that's like the most common occurrence.
It is.
At least, for the places that we go, the things that we do. I think that's, that's almost your first gut feeling that something's around or something's there. But if you read through any of our stuff, I think almost every one, you're going to have us conveying that emotion in some sense.
Yep.
Somebody standing there watching you, footsteps following you, something along those lines. It's just, curiosity, kind of like you said.
Yeah.
You're stepping into somebody else's space or their previously personal life,
It's a primal instinct, I guess you would say.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it, right?
Yes. Absolutely. That's a very good way. Yep. But see, and that's like with Dan and Derek. They work very well together. They're very fluid with each other, and I think that's what makes them a wonderful team too. Because Dan's a little bit more, on the sensitive side. He can kind of feel things and understand things. Derek's more of the technology, but wants to be the first one in that room. He wants to be down those creepy stairs, no matter what. He's going first. Okay. And I go, okay, go ahead. I'll follow. You go ahead.
See, I relate to Derek because I'm that same way. I'm scared of spiders. I'm terrified of snakes.
Yes.
But for some reason, there's something that goes bump. I guess I'm like that typical person in a horror movie that gets killed first because I'm like, ooh, what's that? And run towards it,
Yep. And that's great. And that's why them as a team, they work so well together because yes, Dan is very tech savvy too. Dan is very tech savvy. So they both have that in common, but at the same time, their actual investigation style is very yin and yang. And it just works. They know how to read each other. They know the technology. They do not accept everything they see as paranormal. They're always looking for the truth. They're always looking to honor whatever location that they're in. And they just work so much more cohesive than other teams that I have, seen or been with. And they're not looking for the production. They do not want to overproduce anything. They want to make sure that whatever they put, especially out for public consumption, that it is 100% honest truth. This is what happened. They don't ever tell you what they think it is. They ask you, what do you think this is? What is your opinion? They don't put anything out there as absolute 100% paranormal fact. They put it out. This is what we caught. This is, what we encountered. What do you think? What do you see? What do you hear? And I think that's what makes them a better style of paranormal team, that they have that integrity for every investigation they do, whoever they come across in whatever location that they go to. So that to me is like worth diamonds to me, that to find a group that wants to make sure that whatever they're doing is completely and totally filled with integrity.
Yeah, because you look on like me, Derek, and Dan talked when we did our episode. There's so many of these paranormal shows out there, and I'm pretty sure if you're one of those homeowners that's calling to figure out what's going bump in the night in your house, and then next thing you know, you got a Travel Channel production van pulling up in your front yard. You're like, okay, well, how legit is this going to be?
Exactly.
Which I get, the homeowner has to give consent before that happens. I understand, but it just, to me, compromises the integrity of the investigation when you got a big corporate entity there to film the inside of your house. And it's like, okay, well, what they caught, is that legit or was it staged? there's going to be that element of doubt there because of the fact that there was this big production going on. Because they're trying to sell viewership at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, they're trying to for ratings. Yeah, and that's the pros and cons with dealing with a larger team versus a smaller team, is because the larger team is going to have all the latest up-to-date little gadgets and gizmos and filming technology and editing technology and so on and so forth. That's really nice in the sense of you have multiple pieces of equipment throughout whatever location. So even if you're not in that spot, you're still catching evidence, and to be able to go back and go through. But like you're saying, to that point, too much sometimes is not good. Sometimes it's better, simple is best sometimes. And that way, the integrity continues to stay with whatever evidence is captured, whether it be audio, visual, physical, whichever. But sometimes it's nice to have, when you have that access to all those different types of equipment, because they are expensive. They are very, very expensive. It takes time to learn how to use them. Yeah, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know.
I'm sitting here in front of, just on this desk alone, I have $4,000 in equipment just right here in front of me. So.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons to both sides, but I personally don't like those big, larger teams because it gets overproduced, and sometimes you question their motives. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do when you're looking for help and you're not finding anybody to help you. Sometimes you do have to kind of just take whatever help comes your way, so, but that's the nature of the business right now, is they're overproduced. They're looking for the shock value or the, oh, did you see that? I saw that. Did you hear that? I heard that. You know what I mean? They're looking for that kind of, reaction for rating.
Or you got the alpha male mentality of running up in there, hey, we're here, mess with
exactly.
you. And when the ghost bows up, they're like, ah, and running out the house.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you got to be very careful what you ask for in the spirit world, because sometimes they're very happy to oblige. So, but yeah, you have to protect yourself.
Yep. To me, I feel like Derek, Dan, and yourself have the better approach. If you go in with some respect, just like in the world of the living, if you treat somebody with respect, then they're going to cooperate with you a little bit more. If you go in there fussing and cussing at them, then they're either going to give you, you're either going to give them, they're either going to give you what you don't want, or they're not going to do anything at all. And they're just going to shy away, especially if it's a little child. I mean, if you're dealing with a little child, I mean, my God, I mean, have some compassion for Christ's sake.
Absolutely.
Well, there's so many times too where, I mean, so Dan says it best. He always compares it to fishing, right? I mean, you're not guaranteed to get anything. You have to be patient, and people think because of those big shows that you're going to go into a place and capture things left, capture things right, and things are going to be jumping out at you. You want that? You go to a haunted house. I love haunted houses. I'll go, but that's not what this is. There's a lot of the time where you're explaining something to these people, and you're, we'll go to these conventions, and they'll say, what's a typical investigation like? You're sitting on a floor, you're sitting in a old broken chair for hours on end, talking to maybe nobody, until you listen back later, and you just don't know what you're getting into at every location. We've been to places where we've had absolutely nothing happen, and it happens. You have to be open to anything and everything. And the best thing that you can do is take yourself, take your energy, and have an open mind. You don't need to capture things. Half the time, if you capture the best thing in the world, you could see somebody a big black shadow walk across your screen and show it to everybody, and half of the room is going to say, it was nothing, it was somebody walking around. The other room is going to be like, oh my God, you got the best thing ever. So what's the point? Why bother with all that? And to Cindy's point, with all the money and everything that people dump into it, what's your experience is worth every cent that you put into these things, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's what so many people just don't understand. You're not making a Travel Channel show. You're not getting popular. You're not getting famous. You're not. Hell, we don't get paid for this. You know, we want to
Mm-hmm.
know that there's something there. We want to help people. We want to know that there's more to life. You know, and
Yep. Mm-hmm.
what else can you ask for in the long run?
Yep.
You know, you got to be open-minded to it.
It's
Yep.
the eternal question that has been asked since time immemorial of what is after this.
Right.
It's the
Yep.
great mystery. What is after this?
Absolutely.
You
There will
know,
never be a clear and concise answer. No,
No, I
everyone's
mean-
going to have a different one.
it's do the lights just go out and that's it? The curtain drops and you're done? Is there this energy that leaves your body and just goes into another plane of existence? Is there a heaven or hell? Is there just a limbo? I mean,
You
who
think
knows?
scientifically, you know, energy is never destroyed.
No.
Nope.
So where does it go? You know,
Mhm.
there's always the questions of reincarnation. There's the questions of, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we're on one of those planes of existences and we just move to another one. There's
Mhm.
there's never going to be a concise answer because, like Cindy said earlier, no one's there
No
coming
one's
back.
gone and come
It's
back.
not- it's, you know, and if
Yep.
they have, maybe they're not the same person.
See, the reincarnation question has always been something that I have been very intrigued with. And I've done, you know, little bits of research and reading. Like there's this one kid, I forget where he's from. He's probably a lot older now, but he claimed to have been a pilot during an attack in the Pacific, or it might have been during Pearl Harbor. I can't quite remember. But he went to his grave, what he said was his grave in the, I guess, Arlington National Cemetery. He remembered the plane. He remembered what all the different gadgets was on the plane, everything. And it's like, okay, how did this kid know all this? He's only 5. How did he
Right.
know this? And then there's this, what I got was, okay, is there a spirit there with him that's sharing these memories
Mhm.
through him, or is he reincarnated? I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
just,
well, thinking about that too. I mean, how many people in religions and everything talk about an angel or, you know, somebody watching over you, and who's to say that they're not sitting on his shoulder telling them things? And he's a 5-year-old kid, so he doesn't know any different.
Yep.
Mhm.
You know, so it could be any of that. I mean, there's a lot of good books
Yeah.
out there on reincarnation, a lot of good shows
Mhm.
that talk more of the science behind it, where there is a possibility that that's what happens. I mean, religions from how many years ago, thousands of years ago, ever since the beginning of humanity, have claimed this. And who's to
Mhm.
say there's something to it, or there's not something to it? You know, but it's
Yeah.
very intriguing, for sure.
yeah, you're not always guaranteed to come back as a human. I mean, you could come back as a dog, cat.
And some people want that.
My luck, probably it'd be a sewer rat or something. I don't know, but just something crazy. Probably I'd come back as,
Yeah.
but you know, it's always perplexed me and it's raised questions, and it's like, is it real? I would like to hope it is, but then again, do I want to come back in another existence where my life is just complete garbage? You know,
Right.
that's the
So
roll of
there
the
was
dice.
a really good story that I read. It was a short story, short story. It was basically a man who died. He went and spoke with one being, God, devil, whatever you want to consider him, it, they, and he's like, "You have one question." The man asks, "What the question? You know, what's the purpose of this?" And this being says, "For you to live every life that has ever been." And the man says, "What do you mean? Why?" "So you can finally take my place," was its response. So in that story, you're being reincarnated. You are living every single person. I am you, you are me. And
Mhm.
until you live every person, you cannot reach that higher state of being. But I always thought that was a very intriguing and different play spin on the whole reincarnation thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I personally don't believe that you can come back as a tree or a flower, or something like that. That's just my personal belief. But I also don't like to use the word reincarnation. I like to use the phrase of it's sort of like your soul is on multiple journeys. And when you've learned whatever it is that you needed to learn from this specific journey, you're going to move on to your next journey, whatever that happens to be. And each journey is going to give you a skill set or a knowledge set to be able to use in your next journey. And then then once, like you were saying, once you collect all those kinds of skills or lessons, is when you move on to a higher purpose and another type of higher journey. So it's semantics. I know. I just don't, me personally, I don't like to use the word reincarnation, just because that does give you the implication that you're going to come back as a dog or a cat or a tree or a cow in India or, whatever. you know what I mean? It gives that kind of connotation. And that's just my personal way I choose to have my words come out. So, but yeah, every single time I believe that it's not just lights out and black and whatever. I think it's time for your soul, your energy to move on to another journey. And I think that's sort of where people get kind of confused or have some apprehension around that type of discussion or theory. Because, I mean, who wants to think about coming back as just a tree or a blade of grass or, something like that? They're like, what? I want to have some fun, so it's that kind of, so that's how I try to talk, is that it's more of a soul's journey and they have multiple journeys throughout eternity. So, but you're always connected to each journey that you take. And I think that's where people get worried and caught up in the word reincarnation, because they think, all right, well, when you pass and you move on, if you're being reincarnated, then grandma really still isn't here with us then. Grandma or grandpa or isn't in heaven, then they're on their next journey. I can't communicate with them. I can't know that they're with me. How can they be with me if they're on their next journey? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So all those other perplexing questions come out of that conversation that make it very challenging for people to try to understand and put into perspective.
Well, and then how do you tie that all together? That's
exactly.
That's
and
the
then
big question
and that's so then how do you loop it right back around? And I think that's probably why the infinity sign is like this, is because it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. And these are just small little steps that we can do as humans in this journey, is trying to have as much integrity and respect as possible when dealing with this type of work. Not only for the spirits, but also for the living. You can't forget about the living. You have to be very respectful of their property, their home, their establishment, whatever, but then also being respectful to the spirits that are there and the energy that is there.
That's the one good thing about me and Luke. He's normally my fellow podcaster that we're like co-hosts together of this, but and he's wanted to say he was sorry he couldn't be here today. He has children, small children, so he has to,
he's on daddy duty.
Yeah, and but me and him have two different perspectives on stuff. I grew up in a Christian home. I was, I didn't have like the Bible beat over my head, but my grandparents were very Christian and very much, in the faith. And he is more of an atheist, whatever. So we have two different viewpoints. And he kind of has that belief that it's just lights out, that's it. But he did make a valid point. He said, but at least that's something. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. At least that's the answer to the question. I feel like that's too simple. I feel like there's got to be something else. And when you go into the Bible and and I know the Bible has been translated so much that it's like, what was the actual text that was originally put in there by the prophets and all that, because it's been misinterpreted, books taken out, things changed, all that, but there's still verses in there that reference reincarnation. And I get it. Everybody's going, oh, yes, the New Testament when Jesus rose from the grave. No, that's not necessarily it. When you go into the Old Testament, I can't remember what book it is, but there are certain references in there to somebody, just coming back as somebody else. It's very vague and it's very cryptic, but there are verses in there that reference that. Same thing. And then there is in the New Testament too, but it deals more with the spiritual rebirth of going before God, being in the kingdom of God and all that. But like Derek was saying earlier, there's just so many religions, the Muslim faith, Christianity, Hindu, all that, Hindu especially, Buddhism especially, but it's just text upon text upon text and prophecy upon prophecy that just say that there is a birth, death, and a rebirth. Something to that effect.
Yep. And that's exactly why, we have to maintain our integrity of what we're doing with this type of work, so that we don't disturb that process. You've got to honor that process, whatever it is or wherever you are. That's not for us to either promote or destroy. It is a process, and that process has to happen within its own natural course. And that's why we, as investigators or investigators in general, should have the same integrity and understand that, because when they do go to a location, you're leaving a little bit of your energy behind.
Yeah.
So whatever your energy is when you go in and when you're there, it's almost like a little bit of a footprint. You're leaving a footprint on that location, even though you're not staying at that location, you're not living in that location, but for a certain period of time, you are in that location. And they're, the entities that are there are absorbing from you so that they can communicate and become stronger. So you're leaving a little piece of you and your energy behind in everything that you touch or you walk or you speak or your thoughts, any of that, that portion of that stays there. So that's another reason why the integrity of your investigations, no matter who you are, need to be from an honest standpoint with integrity, respect, that type of thing. And because if you don't, you're leaving behind more negative energy. You're leaving behind more for the negativity to brew and grow. And that's the last thing you want to do. So.
Well, I got Michelle's comments on YouTube way too late. I don't know what's going on. I think the weather's messing with my internet today because it has rained for 4 straight days here. And because we're in the rainy season, Hawaii, between end of December all the way to March, it just rains and rains and rains. But she says she was born in Kingston, New York.
Oh, very nice. Yep. I lived in Saratoga Springs area most of my life. I was born in Kansas, but I was raised in New York. And before you ask, Dorothy and Toto and I were best friends.
And
I used to get that all the time in school. Did you know Dorothy and Toto? Yes, we were best friends.
So the what we were talking about earlier about the spirits that's with her friend, I guess his name is Ed, and not all, she has other spirits, but they're not all awesome.
Yeah, I'd be careful with that. I'd be careful. Of course, she's free to do whatever she wants. That she has free will, but me personally, I'm going to butt my 2 cents in here. She needs to be very careful with how many she's allowing to attach to her, because it's almost like a train. One will jump on to the one that's the caboose. They'll want to be the caboose and they'll just jump on without even her knowing. And if she gets too many of them, try to have that visual of, all these people following and attaching to her and her life. And sometimes they're not as upfront as we would like.
No, not at all. Because there's so many cases of where demonic spirits will pose as children just to get you to let your guard down,
Yep, absolutely. And that's another thing and that's a whole nother podcast, but there's a lot of things you can do to protect yourself, and there's quote unquote like little rituals, cleansing rituals you can do. There's crystals and oils and all that kind of stuff, and holy water and whatever that you can do to help protect yourself. But it is a very dangerous situation because you don't know what you're going to encounter. You don't know how powerful anything is. You don't know what they're going to say or do at any given moment. They can be talking to you and be perfectly fine. The next minute they can attack, or someone else, another spirit could jump into the situation and do something also. So it's a very complex kind of situation that everybody needs to be understood the ground rules before going into a location, and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So because you never know, you really don't. So, and people that like to play around haphazardly and mock the situation or mock the spirits that are there. Yeah. Yeah.
See,
they'll yeah.
Luke has
yeah.
these supposed two spirits in his comic shop, and I don't know if it's true or not. Like I was telling Derek, I've got this app on my phone that some paranormal investigators use, and it just I forget what they call it, but it pulls up phrases or words. It'll just pick a word out that maybe it heard. I guess it's like a spirit box. I forget what it's called, but
it's called like ghost radio or ghost something like that.
Yeah.
But I got a bunch of files where it was like Brandon, Susan, dead, obviously, murder, curse, evil, and all this stuff. So Luke, every night now when he leaves his shop, he literally, when he walks out the door, has got the habit of going, Brandon and Susan, you're not allowed to come home with me. You stay here and watch the comic shop. See you tomorrow.
Yep. You have to set those boundaries. Just like, you have to think of them also too, that they were human at one point, so if you're dealing with, someone in your life or whatever, and they're not treating you very well, you put up a boundary and say, hey, look, back off, leave me alone. Let me have some space, or whatever. You have to have set boundaries, because if they cross those boundaries, you're not going to know until it's too late. Yeah, so as long as I
was telling him the other day what you said, Eric, about that if we could come up with the funding, we could get you all out there to investigate his shop. And I told him that. He goes, no, not at all. Because if they catch something in there, I am selling the business. I don't want to know. He's like, I'm fine.
But he already knows those two are there. He already knows those are there, correct?
Yeah. But he's like, I'm fine with just going, Brandon and Susan, you can't follow me home. That's good enough for me. I don't need no. He's like some headless person like running around my shop or something crazy.
Well, I don't think it would happen quite like that. But yes, doing an investigation does kind of stir up the dust. It does.
Yeah.
It will stir things up for a little while. And that's usually something that you have to let people know.
I'm like, come on, dude. He goes, nope, good. Nope. All right. He's like, look, man, I got to make money for my kids in this place. I don't need to know if there's dead people running around here or not. He's like, I'm fine. When I walk out the door, I'm like, you all could just stay there. I'm going home. See you in the morning. There's plenty of books. Read. But but he's also the same guy too. It's like, come on, let's get a Ouija board, man. I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, it can't be dangerous. It's made by Parker Brothers. I'm like,
no.
Okay.
No. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. That's a whole. I think you guys were talking about that last time. I remember Dan talking about.
Yeah,
the
me and
spirit board.
I brought it up in the episode where I've never personally messed with a Ouija board. I had friends that did, and it did not go well. I think you might remember, Derek. I was telling you, my friend Adam stabbed a pencil into his leg and didn't remember it, but remembered the pencil going. I mean, after the fact, of course, he's like, why am I bleeding, and why does my leg hurt, and why did I stab this pencil in my leg? He didn't stab it deep, but he put a nice little puncture wound in there, according to other people that was there. But
somebody having control to do that. I mean, I don't think it matters to the extent.
And
well, it's all intention. Everything that everything we do in life is based on intention. Anything we say, anything we do, wherever we go, who we hang around with, it's all based on your own energy intention. Right down to what you do for a job or your employment, your career, your hobbies are all with intention. Okay. So when you're dealing with, a Ouija board situation, if you go in with the intention that you want to hear something, see something, experience something, you're going to find those that are going to be willing to oblige you. And it may not be sort of like, be careful what you wish for, and sometimes they will pose as children. And that gives you the ability to drop your defense mechanisms because you're like, oh, it's just a sweet little child, you don't know, and those intentions are very, very important because when the intention of using a Ouija board is to make that contact and have that kind of situation. Whereas when you're in investigation, it's the same way. Whatever intention you walk in with is what's setting the precedence or setting the energy for that environment. So if you think about it, there's different intentions with investigations, but a Ouija board, there's really only one, maybe two possible intentions. You're wanting someone to do something or say something or whatever. And usually that's not a good avenue to go. And then also, too, once that portal is opened, getting that portal to close back up and knowing that it's closed is very challenging, especially for someone who's just out to play a game made from Parker Brothers.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that pre-knowledge of how to open it appropriately and close it appropriately.
I have always viewed the Ouija board as kind of like you sitting down, like back in the day, picking up a Yellow Pages and just randomly opening it up and just pointing at a person and saying, I'm going to call this number. And for all you know, this could be a raving lunatic, serial killer, or whatever. You don't know.
Yep.
I don't think it's just calling. I think it's inviting them over.
Yeah. Because you're opening that portal. You're opening that portal into your environment wherever you are. You're inviting them into that portal and into that environment. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be just something that's already there. It could be something that's just actually in an actual energy existence at this point. It could just be drawn right in. I used to use the analogy, remember Kmart and their blue light special?
Mm-hmm.
The little blue light goes off. Well, that's what happens. It's like hangs over my head, oh, woo, 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 she's here, and then it happens in Ouija boards and games like that too. It's like a little blue light special. They go, ooh, there's my way in. Hello, how are you today? Of course, I'm going to be polite to you when I,
like Beetlejuice
sort of like
on the other side going, it's party time.
Exactly. And there's no owner's manual. There's no owner's manual for this. So you have to have a lot of training and understanding of how to open and close that portal. Because a lot of people get really scared and they just either dump them in the trash or they burn them or whatever. And that's like the worst thing you can do. That is like one of the worst things you can do because you've got to close it first. Because if you don't close it, they don't have a way to leave.
It's funny you should mention the burning because my friend Michael,
you can burn them.
He burned the one that he had and he went to work. At the time we were working at Walmart. This was, God, I think I was like 23, 24. I was in college and he was like 21. He said that when he got back home, the board was back in his closet and did not look like it had been burned. And could not explain. His parents didn't. His mom and dad were like, no, we didn't get anything out of the barrel and bring it, because he lived around a farm and they had a burn barrel out there, and that's where he burned the thing. And his dad and his mom were like, nope, we didn't do anything with it. So he's like, well, how in the hell did this thing end up back in my closet?
Absolutely. Yep.
And
I can't explain it other than the fact of whatever entity they brought in through the portal didn't want to leave. They wanted to stay. And that was their signal to him that I'm here and I'm staying. Thank you very much. Well, you're not in control. I'm in control. You know what I mean? It was kind of a power play. That was a power play.
He since then, he's happily married. He's had children and everything. He hasn't had any other misfortunes in his life. So obviously whatever it was went away, but that was weird. It was very, very weird.
Yep. Very much so. And those are types of things that we won't get the absolute factual explanation or truth out of. At least not in my generation. I don't think so. But
and I mean, a lot of people can be like, I know there's going to be skeptics out there going to be like, well, he could have just been making the story up. Well, I've known Michael his entire life pretty much. And he's not one to just make up some kind of story like that. And when there's other people that can basically vouch for said story and they all got the same experience, except for the one that stabbed himself in the leg and has no and he's actually got the wound on his leg and he doesn't remember stabbing himself, and you would have to be a maniac to go that far to stab yourself in the leg to make a story true,
Absolutely.
But hey guys, look, we got to make everybody believe this Ouija board's haunted. So who's drawing straws here? Who's gonna stab?
Who's gonna take one for the team?
Yeah,
who's gonna take one for the team?
Here's pencil. I sharpened it. Be careful.
Yep. Absolutely. Don't hit the main artery. 2 inches to the right. Remember that.
Yeah. And there's femoral artery down there. Just watch out, guys.
Yeah.
Get in the thigh. Nice and meaty and fat there. It's just crazy.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, I hung out with some guys that would do some crazy stuff, but stabbing themselves, no.
Yeah. Now, I'm not into self-inflicted pain. No, thank you. I try to avoid it at all costs.
I mean, the craziest thing I've ever seen is I was on a bus one time, not to get off subject, I apologize, but I was on a bus one time and this guy goes, watch this. And this wasn't over here. This was back home. And he literally took a stapler and stapled his name in his forearm. And I just looked at him and I went, it's cool, bro. I'm going to move over here. You have a good day.
Oh, dear Lord. Yeah.
And just wrote Timmy. I mean, literally wrote Timmy in his arm with a stapler. I was like, you can go to a tattoo parlor, bro. It's just, why are you stapling yourself?
He was making the pattern so that the tattoo artist knew what to do.
Yeah, well, they're pretty competent artists, so obviously they could have just drawn Timmy. So
I know.
But yeah, that was. I was like, wow, buddy. Good for you.
Yeah. That was a little bit much. That was a little extreme.
Be up here. I'm gonna go sit by the driver by the exit in case I need to jump off real quick.
Yep.
But Adam.
Anyway.
Adam was a lunatic growing up. He's crazy, but just stabbed
Not
himself.
that crazy.
Yeah.
Not that crazy. Not
No.
stapler crazy.
Yeah, he's not stapler crazy, nor taking a number 2 pencil and ramming it through his leg just to be like, yeah, guys, there's ghosts here. See, pencil in the leg. There's the proof.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, before we close out this session, I pulled up a piece of evidence here because the way I discovered Iron City was through the Gettysburg EVP that Mr. Derek there had on Instagram. But this is a thermal image from Armistead, or my eyes don't work so great, but
Yeah, I mean, close enough.
but see if I can get this thing to pull up. And there will be a part 2 to this. Me and Derek was talking about it this morning. So hopefully by the end of part 2, I'll be able to do the EVPs where everybody can hear it and I'll have this stupid technology figured out. But this was very much intriguing to me. You were literally following what looks to be a person.
Mm-hmm. That's the one question that's always asked. Is there somebody there? No.
Well, it's not a no, because there's 2 different temperature variants right here. You got the upper half is not quite as visible, but the lower half is very much visible. So that's not a real person. It's something trying to manifest, and it's only partially.
Right.
Sort of like a mist kind of.
There's
apparition.
no clear outline to it. Not really.
No, but it's walking. That's for damn sure.
Yep.
And it's almost like it's marching.
Well, it's very
Gettysburg.
It's almost like it's doing
exactly.
because I was in the Army, and
Very rhythmic.
there's like because when we march, we raise our knees a certain height, right? So
Yep.
there's almost like a cadence to it. Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, that's an excellent catch.
So that was at the battlefield, Derek? Right
yeah,
there?
You can actually see right behind that. That's one of the monuments right there out in the middle of it.
Oh, right here?
Yep.
The white.
So you can kind of see like the different colorations and everything. I mean, that's almost as cold as that monument would be.
I mean, the stories are there's mass graves there, right? That was like
That's absolutely right. And that's pretty much where we were standing. So we went back to this spot. This is very close to where that EVP was taken as well. The night before of the fife and fiddle. And so we went back and we tried to see what we could see. We're like, holy shit, we didn't hear this at all the first time around. So that's what we saw the second night.
So have any of the reenactors that go there when they're in that dress for that time period, does it stir something up there with them? Or
I don't think they need anything stirred up, not there.
No, there's no need to try to stir up anything. It's all organically there.
So it's probably like one of the most active places on this planet, I'm sure.
I believe it.
Yep.
It always makes those top 10 lists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no matter who you talk to, you can relate that location to somebody somewhere.
Yep. There's mass graves. There's the soil has been soaked in blood, through battle and whatnot. So that the energies and imprinted. And if and Derek, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Please do so. But I had done some reading somewhere too that Gettysburg has a lot of limestone in their soil.
Absolutely does. So that's one of the stories that the limestone itself actually holds a lot of energy and is able to. So for all that to occur in that location, on top of that, just adds to the mythos there.
Yep. So it's a conductive stone property that's in the ground. So anything that has come in contact with it.
You talk about your
imprints
energy. And your echoes. I mean, that's exactly a prime example.
Yep, absolutely.
Here's what else gets me too is where he's walking. Wouldn't there be like almost like seeing footprints there if it was a person? Wouldn't it be leaving something kind of showing
so
up?
When you do these FLIR thermals, you always have to be careful of that because you can easily make or find footprints if you really wanted to. So if you're following somebody or you look down even at your own feet, you can see at least a quick imprint, and it's typically either blue or green from your heat.
Your own heat.
Mm-hmm.
Your own heat, your own body heat.
And there's nothing that's left behind there.
No, there's
Yep.
no little dots or anything where his feet
Yep.
would have been. It's almost like he's just barely floating above the ground or something almost.
And the ground there has changed so many times since that occurred
Yes.
that who's to say that's even the same level that they would have been at. So that could, I mean,
Yeah.
inches, feet.
Yep.
I mean, they've altered that site so many times the past 250 years.
Yep.
He's definitely putting on some heat, especially on his lower part.
Well, that's actually cold. The white's
Oh,
gonna
that's
be-
the cold.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
If you
that
look
was
at that
like-
monument there, that's marble. So the marble, and
Yeah.
trying to think
It's
of when
gonna-
I would have went.
yeah.
March maybe. That's going to be cold, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see. So if you look at the sky, those are going to be some of your warmer temperatures, the red even. But whenever you see so if you look up at the sky, you're seeing the dark blues. That's a cold sky right now. Most of the time when we see these things, and you saw in the other images, it looked like a blue figure crossing their legs. You know, it looked.
Yes.
So those are usually the color differences that you're looking for.
It's like
And that
46, 47 degrees.
That would be more of an ambient temperature. So that's
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just amazing, just the fluidity and how he's walking.
Yep.
There's no disputing that. I mean, there's just no way that you could. I'm sorry.
Well, he's walking with intention. He's walking with intention of going from one specific spot to another. He's not just wandering around. He has a definite path.
But you guys out there in YouTube land, when you watch this, I want you to home in on him. Now watch from when Derek or Dan, whoever got this shot.
that would have been me.
First-
This is one of those moments where Dan was mad because he wasn't there.
So if you watch right there, he almost fully manifests and then he fades back out. Right. Shoot. Right there.
Yeah, you can
And
almost see it, almost. I wouldn't want to call it bubble, but you know, such a strong energy felt at that point.
Clearly his legs are there, but it's like the rest of him is like right there. He fully manifests for a second, then he just completely disappears right there. Right, the top half does. Old boy's trying.
As if losing energy as he goes.
Yeah. Could that be because where his legs are is closer to the limestone deposits? Maybe he's pulling more energy there than what his top half would, or
It's possible. I don't know what kind of I don't know how deep that limestone would be, or how far that energy field would take it. But I mean, that's as good of a theory as any.
that's what convinced that you can't. I mean, yeah, you could doctor footage from a FLIR, yeah, but this is the actual footage from the FLIR. If you doctored it, obviously, plus there would be a little bit of a guy that edits stuff. There would be a little bit of a tick in there somewhere where you could tell, right? So,
and it would get grainy too.
Yeah, when I edit anything video, I have to smooth it out because there's always a little bit of a skip in time a little bit. You have to it would take a lot of work, basically. Sure. Short story.
Well, Derek, let me ask you this: in your opinion, is that residual or intelligent?
I would think that would be residual.
I would too. Okay.
Especially in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the guys Ghost Lab. They used to be on Discovery Channel.
I have, yeah.
Well, when they were younger, the Kling brothers, I think they're twins, they took a family vacation from Texas up to Gettysburg, and they caught on just a regular old video camera what looked like reenactors out there walking across the field.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one before.
With the American flag and everything, and then all of a sudden they were gone.
Yeah.
It was almost from a distance. I think I remember which one. I think I know which one you're talking about.
Now you could dispute that, but how did they run off the field that quick? You know,
Right.
because they were there, then gone, just like that.
Yep.
Yeah. If you listen to that EVP that we got before this one, like, I wouldn't know how to. You ask anybody, I have no idea how to do that stuff. I can clean stuff up all day long, but to cut things, splice things, clean things up like that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you didn't go out there with your dad with a fife player and be like, "Hey, guy, go over here real quick, start playing some stuff."
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
You know,
Pay somebody a lot of money to do that.
Exactly. Yep.
it's like, here's a fife, go over there, not
There
too
you
loud.
Make it sound ghosty.
Eerie. Make it sound eerie and creepy.
Or take your kids out
I'll
there and
get
be
the
like,
fog machine.
"Here, look, Daddy needs some evidence real quick. So, did you take your little Fisher Price drum and this fife and
Yep.
just go
Mama needs a new pair of shoes.
eat your heart out, Zach Bagans?"
There you go. Don't even get me started on him. That's another day, another dollar.
I like Zach, but I think that he goes in a little too hardcore sometimes, and he's going to get himself in trouble.
Just wait. I'm
Oh,
waiting
he
for
has
that to
gotten
happen.
himself. He's gotten himself into some pretty, lots of health issues.
Yeah, he's got to wear prism glasses now because he went to that Gary, Indiana demon house and went in there provoking that thing, and it damaged his eyes forever. So, and Bobby Mackey's Music World in Kentucky, you all need to go there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know that. But they went in there provoking whatever was in there, and that ended up following one of the guys, Aaron. Ended up whatever was there followed him home and cost him his marriage. And
I remember hearing
he's
about
not,
that.
and he's not the one that's normally. I mean, he's more of the scaredy cat. He's like the Shaggy of the group, like zoink skoob and just takes off. But whatever it was, I guess preyed on him and ruined his marriage. Zach and what's his the guy that used to be in the group with him?
Nick.
Yeah, I mean,
his own.
Yeah, their friendship dissolved,
right,
because of negativity. So,
I
mean, these things don't just play on your health. I mean, they play on just your everyday life.
Every day.
Everything.
That's why I was saying earlier, you need to be careful how many of you are going to allow to attach to you, because eventually it's going to catch up, and it's going to be really hard to get rid of them, because you're never going to know exactly how many are actually really there. So,
here's something else I saw with Mr. Bagans. I get he's got his haunted museum. I kind of think that that's like you're sitting on a nuclear bomb, because everything that's in there supposedly doesn't have a super cool spirit attached to it. There's more negative than there is positive. He had the Warren son-in-law come in with the Annabelle doll, and they set it up. They put a K2 meter around it and all kinds of other stuff. I forget the name of the son-in-law, but he's sitting there telling Zach, do not touch this doll. Everybody that has made physical contact with this doll has died and or something bad's happened to them. Did you know that fool said, oh, she's calling me towards her, and he touched it? And I'm like, are you stupid?
Whatever it
There's
gets.
a reason why Elizabeth, Ed Warren and what was her name? Elizabeth Warren?
Lorraine.
Elizabeth Warren. I'm thinking
Lorraine.
Lorraine Warren. There's a reason why Ed and Lorraine kept that thing in a glass case. Yes, it looks like a little innocent Raggedy Ann doll, but that Raggedy Ann doll has caused a lot of hell in a lot of people's lives.
Absolutely. Yep.
And he just goes up
Sometimes
to him.
it's best. Yeah.
It's like, well, you're dead now, Zach. Good job.
Yep.
And that guy's like, what did you do? What did you do? And he's like telling Zach, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I can
Good
just
luck.
hope for the best for you.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. Sometimes you have to defer to someone that has an extreme amount of experience and knowledge and just accept it and not continue to provoke. And I don't think he's going to do that.
He's almost like the Johnny Knoxville of paranormal investigators. Like,
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Zach Bagans.
Well,
Welcome to Jackass.
I think if you take away his production company, if you take away the TV cameras and stuff, I think he would probably not be as brave and wanting to push the envelope.
Yeah, that
'Cause
demon
I think
house.
that's why he does it. Yeah.
I've been trying to obtain the police reports for that, and I've had no luck. But there's been YouTubers that's been able to get their hands on it, and I'm like, well, I should be able to get my hands on it. It should be public domain, right? You know, thinking that.
Should be.
But I can't get my hands on them for whatever reason. I've even tried to find the investigator that went there when the children were climbing up the walls and their eyes were rolled back in their heads, and I've come up cold with that. And I can understand why. Probably these people don't want to talk about this crap. But Zach just goes up in this place like, okay, you know, I'm here. I ain't scared, but it's like, dude, a mother and her mother and two children were possessed by this thing. It's not super nice. And you were already having dreams that it was a giant goat man breathing smoke and fire and all kinds of other stuff. And then when they locked him in the house, I think if you've seen the documentary, they locked him in the house. They basically padlocked him in, and then they put plywood over the doors and windows and everything, trapped him in there. And then he just started calling it out. And then all of a sudden you hear a growl, and it makes itself known. And then he runs out and starts throwing stuff at the walls and having like a freak out. And then that's when he said that his eyes, he couldn't see. So it's like, dude, when are you going to get the hint that this stuff is not to be played with?
Yeah, I don't think he did.
No, because he still continues to do it.
I don't think he ever will. Yeah. No, I don't think he'll ever stop.
I mean, you basically were blinded in that house that night. You can't see without those glasses ever again. They had another guy that got possessed by something in there, and now he's running around with satanic tattoos all over his body. But when he first went in the house, he was like super normal, and now he looks like somebody that just got out of prison. I mean, he's like got 666 and all kinds of crap all over him, and yeah, he went from like Leave It to Beaver to like prison inmate overnight, and he refuses to get help.
Yeah,
because of it. So it's like, dude, I mean, I don't know. It just blows my mind that people play with this stuff so freely without.
Well, it's because they don't have enough education to know what they're doing is very foolish. But as far as Zach Bagans, he's had all the education in the world, all the experiences in the world. He's making a conscious choice. You know, he's making a conscious choice, and he knows what the consequences are, not only for himself, but for his crew. And that's where I find it a little bit, for the lack of a better term, disrespectful to his own crew. You know, by putting them in danger as well as himself. So, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's like you're just standing in the middle.
Gonna stop.
Yeah, I don't think it's just yours.
I said, it's like standing in the middle of your friends with a stick of dynamite and just saying, hey, guys, just stand right here real quick.
Yep.
What were you saying,
Great
Derek? I'm
friend,
sorry.
huh?
I didn't mean to.
Oh, I think everybody agrees with her. I don't think that's really disputed.
Yeah,
He's not
something else.
going to stop, especially if there's a crew involved.
No, and poor Aaron just stays right there with him after all the hell that poor guy's been through. And I love Aaron. He seems like he's the only one that's really got some damn sense.
Yep.
It's just sad that it costed him his marriage.
Yep. Well, I think he also had some alcohol issues too, due to that.
Yep.
So.
Well, they said he got possessed that night during that investigation. That he was talking about he wanted to kill the bishop that was there with him, that he had thoughts of strangling him and all kinds of other craziness.
Right, so who's to know where that led to?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, this has been awesome for me.
Yes.
I hope you've all had fun too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Sorry that the chat
I hope I was
messed up. Like I said, I said I'm sorry that my chat was kind of messed up on my end, but that's inclement weather that we've had, and I think it's messing with my internet because my phone, as I've been watching it, my Wi-Fi has been going in and out on it. So I'm glad that it hasn't affected my computer here where it's cut us off. But
absolutely.
Me and Derek talked this morning. There's going to be a part 2 to this because there is a lot of evidence on here, and the part 2, hopefully John will this guy figure out how to play the audio for you guys so we can listen to EVPs. Sorry,
absolutely
when it comes to not internet, but now I just started using StreamYard like not even a month ago. Because I started thinking, I'm gonna start doing some video podcasts because I've had so many guests. Like, well, I want to be video. Okay, so I paid for the StreamYard, and I'm still figuring it out. So, Derek and Cindy, I do apologize that I couldn't get the EVP to play. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out.
It's a little bit of learning there, yeah, but it works. Yeah. It works well. I mean, it's worked well to this point. So it's once you figure that out, then it'll be good.
Yeah,
very nice. But I do appreciate the opportunity and being included. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I hope Dan and his family are doing great, and the new baby's doing good.
Yeah.
So was this baby born on New Year's Eve?
I guess it would have been yesterday. It would have been New Year's Day, like 4 a.m. I want to say. So.
Oh, so it was a baby New Year. That's cool.
There you go.
All my youngins.
That's wonderful.
I think everybody was on their. They were kind of on baby watch and didn't really see much till the early morning. So, long couple days for them. But.
Yep.
As we say in the South,
sure.
all my youngins is grown. Yep. All mine are in their 20s now. So I miss when they were little kids because they're more annoying now that they're older. No, I love them, but they can be a pain in the ass. But Dad loves you.
Yep.
But we're going to have a part 2, guys, and
wonderful.
Y'all watch this out there in YouTube.
Yeah, you'll have to show that. Yeah, Derek, you'll have to show the evidence from the Jenny Wade house that we got too.
Yeah, I can get that up there too.
Jenny Wade. Oh, she was the one that was sitting there in the kitchen and got shot, right, or something.
Yeah, the only civilian.
Yep.
Oh God, yeah, because you're good, Cindy, because I actually was thinking that earlier. I was like, y'all went to Gettysburg. Did they go to that particular house? But I couldn't think of her name. But I had always heard that she caught one of the stray rounds, and I guess her house was used kind of as a kind of like a barracks, so to speak.
Well, everything was there, but yeah,
everything was there. Yeah. Yep. And then we went to the orphanage too, across the street.
Yeah, with the evil lady that had the kids there. That she's not. From what I understand, she still roams that place.
Yeah, we had
Pretty
first-hand
much.
experience of that one.
Mhm.
And I heard that there's still kids there with
Yep.
her too.
Yep.
God, that's got to be sad
Absolutely.
to know that your eternal resting and your eternal spirit is trapped in a place with somebody that was just completely just evil to you in life,
Yeah.
and then now you're trapped with them there.
Afterwards, yeah.
Mhm.
God, that's got to suck.
But
Talk
yeah,
about
All
hell
right.
on earth.
we'll get some of that stuff up there too, and touch on that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait. And I guess we'll try to
Okie
shoot
dokie.
for a couple of weeks from now. Try to do this
Yeah.
again.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
We'll
All
get
right,
something
guys.
final. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Derek. Thank you, Cindy. It was always a pleasure to talk to you all. And
Yeah.
hope you guys enjoyed this horror hangout. Hopefully, John here will have things a little bit
Absolutely.
more figured out when we come back. And we'll see you again next time on. Oh, before I forget, go and follow Derek and Cindy and them on Iron City Paranormal at Instagram at Iron City Paranormal. And your Twitter is the same, correct?
Yeah, our Instagram's the same, or our Twitter's the same. I believe I've tagged you in that one before too.
Yep.
So
Yeah, go give them a follow. They post a lot of evidence on those social media pages. Again, now I'm going to end. So this has been John, Derek, Cindy, and we will see you again next time on the Behind the Feeds.
Have a good day. Bye.